Allosaurus was a large theropod dinosaur that roamed the Earth 155 to 145 million years ago during the late Jurassic period. Like most theropods, Allosaurus walked on two powerful hind legs and had shortened forelimbs like the well-known T-Rex. Some specimens have been found to be as much as 9.7 meters, or 32 feet long. They were ferocious carnivores with large heads and jaws full of sharp teeth. Although some believe that a real-life Jurassic Park would be an incredible sight, here we ask the question, could Allosaurus survive nowadays? Firstly, let's consider diet. Owing to their enormous size, scientists believe that Allosaurus hunted large prey. There has been solid evidence of this from the fossilized remains of both allosaurs and herbivorous prey species. One injury that has been preserved through time was a puncture wound found on the Allosaurus, made by the tail spike of a Stegosaurus. Defending themselves against these predators was common, and another Stegosaurus skeleton showed a U-shaped chunk taken out of its neck, which fitted the size and shape of an Allosaurus snout. It seems the Allosaurus considered the highly armored Stegosaurus as common prey. There is debate about exactly how Allosaurus hunted. They are known to have eaten sauropods, which include the largest terrestrial animals ever to have walked the Earth. Diplodocus and Brachiosaurus belonged to this group, which had characteristically long necks, allowing them to eat from the very tops of trees. Although Allosaurus was an enormous predator, it was still dwarfed by some of these sauropods. Therefore, to hunt a full-grown adult may have required pack-hunting behavior. Their jaws were thought to possess stretchy ligaments, enabling them to open their mouths at a 92-degree angle. They could have closed them around the necks of their prey, similarly crushing the trachea of some of today's big cats. However, their teeth were small, unlike other theropods, suggesting they used them more like a saw, rather than crushing through muscle and bone. The sharp teeth would have delivered significant injuries, which the prey animal later succumbed to, similar to today's Komodo dragons. This would mean that allosaurs wouldn't need to latch onto a large animal like Diplodocus to bring it down. Instead, their bites would inflict wounds that would weaken the animal, and they could track it until it eventually died. Also, their jaws weren't as powerful as the mighty T-Rex, but they had considerably more control over their heads and mouths due to their strong neck muscles. They would have eaten carrion too, but rather than shaking their heads from side to side like T-Rex and modern-day crocodiles to rip meat from a carcass, they would have pulled the flesh upwards like falcons. Their forelimbs seemed to be more useful than those of other theropods. They could use them to hold down the dead animal, whilst they ripped the meat off the bone with their jaws. But what would Allosaurus eat in today's modern world? The largest land animal alive today is the African bush elephant. It stands at 4 or 5 meters tall and weighs up to 6 tons. In comparison, Stegosaurus measured 3 to 4 meters tall and weighed between 3 and 5 tons. They are comparable by size, and elephants would likely be far easier to target than the heavy armored Stegosaurus. Also on the list of the largest modern animals are rhinos, hippos, giraffes, bears, and gaur. Although these wouldn't match the likes of Stegosaurus, and certainly not Diplodocus or Brachiosaurus for size, they may provide some nourishment for allosaurs in today's world. Whether these would be enough, especially considering many of these animals have small population sizes and are under threat of extinction themselves, is another question. Did Allosaurus eat the entire carcass of a sauropod? Or did it just hunt the larger dinosaurs because they were less agile than the smaller species? It is estimated that the top speed of Allosaurus was between 19 and 34 miles per hour. The top speed of elephants is 25 miles per hour, and for rhinos it is 31 miles per hour. This is considerably faster than Stegosaurus, which had a top speed of 11 miles per hour. Maybe today's modern species would be too fast for Allosaurus. If Allosaurus did hunt in packs during the Jurassic, then they wouldn't necessarily need to in modern times, as they would dwarf any of today's creatures. But it may be a way of targeting faster animals, using collaborative hunting to approach the prey from different angles. There is still some debate regarding the social structure and potential group hunting behavior of Allosaurus. Fossilized remains, particularly shed teeth found in carcasses, suggest that Allosaurus killed its prey and then brought it back to its lair to feed its young. Some believe that they cared for their young until they were fully independent. Others lean towards a more solitary existence for the allosaurs. It is relatively rare for large vertebrates to hunt together. Although some will tolerate each other when it comes to scavenging a carcass, many interactions amongst carnivores of the same species are aggressive and territorial. Although modern prey would be easier for Allosaurus to capture, we don't think it would be sufficient to sustain their appetite. But what about the habitat that Allosaurus lived in? Most of the Allosaurus fossils have been located in Western America and Portugal. The Morrison Formation is a layer of sedimentary rock that covers Western America from Montana to New Mexico. Contained within it are copious amounts of fossils, which provide insight into the plant and animal life during the Jurassic. The habitat in which Allosaurus lived was semi-arid, with distinct wet and dry seasons. There was plant life in the form of conifers, ferns, mosses, and cycads. There were rivers lining these forests and flat open floodplains in which the Allosaurus could hunt. Fellow theropods that shared this habitat with Allosaurus included Ceratosaurus and Torvosaurus. These were physically shorter than Allosaurus and more agile. They preferred hunting amongst the forests and underbrush, whilst Allosaurus preferred the open plains. Today, there would likely be some habitat that the Allosaurus would find suitable. There are open plains across most of the continents, which would allow the enormous predator to locate its prey. If introduced to these ecosystems, however, and if it somehow survived on the meager food sources available, it would probably decimate the species that live there. During the Jurassic period, Allosaurus was at the top of the food chain, but would occasionally have been predated on by other large theropods. There is fossil evidence of allosaurs being eaten by other theropods, but it has been suggested that this was mostly through scavenging, rather than actively hunting the dinosaurs. Today, no other animal would challenge the Allosaurus, and their presence could be devastating. Could they survive the climate in our modern world? Evidence shows that the Jurassic period was warmer than today by as much as 5 degrees Celsius to 10 degrees Celsius. There were no ice caps at the poles, and the temperate regions would have been more like subtropical and tropical climates. Regions closer to the equator were arid, whilst higher latitudes were wetter. Some of the land was covered in vast swamps and wetlands, creating a humid environment in which Allosaurus thrived. The diversity of ferns, palms, and conifers suggests that the climate was warm and humid, and their spread towards the poles shows that there was less of a temperature difference between the polar regions and those near the equator. In contrast, today's temperatures are significantly cooler, and there is an obvious temperature gradient along the latitudes. The oceans were thought to be 8 degrees Celsius warmer than modern times, allowing corals to thrive 10 degrees latitude further north and south from where they are today. Although there may have been some snow following intermittent cold snaps in the climate, the summers were too warm to allow glaciers to form, except perhaps high up on the mountains. The atmospheric carbon dioxide was 4 times greater than it is today. This caused a greenhouse effect, which bathed the globe in a warmer climate. The animal life on Earth would have been adapted to survive and thrive in these levels of carbon dioxide. If Allosaurus were introduced to today's world, then they may not survive the differences in atmospheric gases. In conclusion, we don't believe that Allosaurus could survive nowadays. The world is a very different place from the Jurassic period. Not only has the climate changed dramatically, but we believe the Allosaurus would struggle to find enough prey of a suitable size to survive. That's all for today. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. You can also leave a comment with what you would like to see in the following videos. Thanks for watching. See you next time.